everybody. I am going to read you a speech that I have prepared for my very first public speech. This will be presented for the first time live on February 15th in Huron, South Dakota. As this is going to be a live event, it will also be on a couple forums, but I want to make sure that I get it to you all first. So here goes. If you have any questions, comments, please let me know and I'll be happy to answer them after I get done reading. Thanks for tuning in. Hi, my name is Christina and I'm an author from South Dakota. This is my very first speech, so bear with me. First of all, let me ask a question. May I please have a show of hands from the folks in the audience who've dreamt of becoming a published author? Thanks. I'm here today to tell you a bit about my author journey and also to inspire any of you who may be thinking about writing yourself. You too can turn your mess into a message. A bit about me. I was born in Minnesota, but have lived in South Dakota my entire life. I have always loved to spin a tale and written on and off for years. I even had a high school teacher who thought I was good enough to get published way back then. Of course, at that young age, I was not disciplined enough to follow through. As I got older, life changed. There were bills to pay. There were challenges beyond what I had ever thought possible. I went to college. I moved away from home. Once away, I found out that I was not at all ready for this large step. I was naive. I missed home. I tried, but trying was not enough. I dropped out of college, broke up with the person I was with, and moved back home. I was simply lost. My writing had basically come to an end. After a bit more floundering, my best friend and I purchased a trailer house together in my early 20s. The person who I was with bounced in and out of my life for several more years, along with others. There was good along with the bad. The one good thing that had come out of my failed relationship with the man who had left me with a broken heart is that he also left me with a car, which has become a constant in my life ever since. The car, my 84 Cutlass, now lovingly called the Car Goddess, helped me find my identity. Anyone who's a car person will understand this. I did stereo competitions at car shows, and life seemed pretty okay. I had a lot of fun with friends and being very socially active during that time. I found confidence and a sense of self that I had never had before. Eventually, my best friend moved on to find her way on her own. I stayed in the trailer and continued my own adventures. I had many friends, a paid-off pickup, 2 show cars, and finally, a paid-off home. One day, a man moved into the trailer next to mine, and we became friends. Eventually, more than just friends. In my early 20s, I was married. I thought at that time it was a fairy tale come true. We dated and were married within a year. We bought an acreage while we were engaged, and I thought to myself, all of your dreams are coming true. Unfortunately, that was not the case. 7 years later, that dream came to an end. We divorced due to what we have now come to call irreconcilable differences. I left the farm, I lost the best job I had ever worked, and then my best friend died due to cancer at the age of 35. This, my friends, was the beginning of 13 Miles North. Cue my first bit of author advice. Write what you know. I think most authors would tell you that there is a bit of truth in any of their stories, whether that is in a place, a character, or a situation. After all, there's a reason for the saying, I am an author, and anything you say may be used against you in a book. I used what I knew. I was overwhelmed with grief, guilt, and anger. Although I had joined the life of my current husband, I could not seem to move past the overwhelming emotions. After many years, the urge to write came back. I started to write down some of the things that had been festering. It took 3 tries, multiple notebooks, feedback from the important people in my life, and a lot of pushing. I read a bit of my story to my current husband as well as my mom. Ideas were given, and I continued pushing until I was able to finish my story. 13 Miles North contains a fictionalized version of my own story. Most of the people in the story are based on people I have met somewhere along the line in my real life. These people have left an impression on me, whether it was good or bad, enough of an impression that the memory has spawned their immortalization as fictionalized characters. The farm really did exist. It still does, but it's changed and has new owners now. As you read 13 Miles, you'll notice that the property, the outbuildings, and the house itself are described in detail. This was done on purpose to transport the reader to a place that now only exists in my memory. I wanted the reader to see it through my eyes, to be able to picture what I saw without having a physical image. Since I've left, the house has been vacated, the barn is burnt to the ground, and the property itself has begun to take on a much different appearance. The point to this, you may ask? As an author, you have the ability to permanently freeze a moment in time, to have it never change. Let that be part of your thought process as you consider how to bring a location to life in your story. The villain, Cecil himself, is completely made up. The elements which guided me towards writing him into the story are not. The lock and the tree, the basketball hoop, the old flat basketball, the fruit tree grove, and even the piano existed. All these elements seemed out of place to an extent, and I knew they had a story to tell. Unfortunately, inanimate objects cannot speak. I felt the need to create a story for them. Yep, you guessed it. This is leading into another helpful author tip. Tip number 2. If an idea sparks your imagination, it can easily become a story. That being said, if the idea comes to you, make a point of writing it down when it does. As previously stated, 3 notebooks and multiple versions. There's a reason for that. 13 Miles came together in many pieces, none of which were written in order. In fact, in the printed version, the original beginning became the ending. Don't worry about flow, punctuation, or really any form of editing. Just write it down. There'll be plenty of time and plenty of editing by yourself and eventually an editor before your story becomes a published book. Now to the business part of being an author. Writing the story ended up being the easy part. From there, I needed to find an editor and cover artist, decide how to publish, and then market my story to anyone who may be interested. Through the help of my mom, I found the perfect person to get my book from concept to reality. The book went through several edits before final approval. On February 28th of 2024, 13 Miles North was published as a paperback for the first time on Lulu.com. I chose to self-publish as querying for a traditional publisher is very time-consuming and oftentimes not productive. I then learned about advertising and self-promotion. First of all, direct sales. This is where a majority of my sales come from. It is much easier to sell a book to someone who is walking around at an event than it is to have your book discovered in the vast sea that is the internet. It is also fun to talk to those who stop at your booth. It's much easier to convey what your book is about and any emotion in person than on a blurb online. You'll also find some very interesting people along the way. I have been very fortunate to meet many other self-published authors, most with far more experience than myself. Networking is invaluable in business. Most of the others are very willing to lend advice. Some have connections to publishers, literary agents, or other resources that they're willing to share. Often you can make a new friend. I've been lucky enough to build a library of signed books from my new favorite authors found at events I have done. Once in a while, you'll even meet a reporter who wants to do a story on you, or a business owner who'd like to have your book in their store. But before you can make in-person sales, in most cases, you must have a license. This is very important, and I cannot stress it to those of you looking to learn enough. Don't worry, this is not as hard as it sounds. It's actually as simple as a phone call to the Department of Revenue in your state. Simply tell them what it is you're looking to do, and they will help you out. Then your license magically comes in the mail. I know, boring. Right? Boring, but very important. Remember, as an author, you are also a business owner. The license is needed as you'll need to charge a sales tax at each event that you do. You'll need to file sales tax as a business on a basis designated when you get your license. This is dictated at some shows, but at others, you'll need to find out that percentage on your own. You'll need to learn to track your sales, charge the correct amount of tax, and keep track as a business would. Second most important is self-promotion. As a self-published author, if you do not promote yourself, no one will do it for you. You only get as much out of your author career as you put in. I created an author page and an author group on Facebook. I have a presence on Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, YouTube, and TikTok. I update these regularly and run periodic ads on Facebook as well as through Amazon. I'm constantly looking for new avenues to become known. You may not be able to tell it now, but I'm an extremely introverted person. I don't really like to people very much. In order to be an author, this had to change. I did my very first event at Good Vibe Tribe in Arlington, South Dakota on August 14th, 2024. Since then, I've done several more events at the same location, a book signing at a business in Brookings. I've done many craft shows, farmers markets, and several interviews. I've been featured on 2 podcasts and even done an author takeover on a popular Facebook page. Most notably, I participated in the Page and Stage event in DeSmet, the South Dakota Arts Council event in Brookings, and Literature and Lattes in Brandon. 13 Miles North has received several 5-star reviews on Amazon as well as Lulu. It's also on Barnes & Noble and Kobo. I've expanded its reach through global distribution, and it can be found in most places books are sold. I've consigned to several stores and have a local presence in Brookings and Arlington. 13 Miles has reached the top 10 in several of its categories on Amazon multiple times. I've sold around 200 copies between online and physical sales to date. I feel this is a great accomplishment in my first year as an author. 13 Miles broke my writer's block. Next, due to popular demand from those that read 13 Miles, I penned Cecil's story. I wanted the world to know that I am not just a one-trick pony. I am an author. Cecil's story is a companion to 13 Miles North. Readers can read Cecil or 13 Miles first. It all depends on how you want to perceive Cecil. Do you want to know what he did, or do you want to know why he did it? Cecil's story is told by Cecil himself from his point of view. It follows Cecil's family from the time that they immigrate from Germany to their industrious first son, Cedric, who is Cecil's father, and then it goes to Cecil himself. You'll come to know your favorite villain very personally and find out what drove him to do what he did on 13 Mile Farm. The story begs the questions, do generational curses really exist? If so, can they be broken? And can a person who's done a lot of bad in their life be redeemable? Last but not least, I did a Christian children's book called The Rusty Kitten. I felt the need to do this story as someone who's never really felt like they fit in well. This story is aimed towards those who have differences of any type. The purpose is to tell those people that it's okay to be themselves exactly as they are. It's about a small kitten that God made a little different. It follows that small kitten that is mistakenly given a little extra spice. This makes her much more adventurous than the rest. She escapes the workshop in heaven where she's not quite finished and goes on an adventure. While out and about, she encounters a rainstorm. Her paint job is not yet finished, and she rusts, making her look different from the rest of the kittens. God himself finds her. He brings her back to the workshop. Then they try to finish her paint, but they're unable to cover all of the rust. God assures her that there are no mistakes in heaven, and she is perfect the way that she is. She's sent to earth and goes through quite an adventure before finding her perfect home. Final bit of author knowledge. How to balance it all. Right now, I still work full-time. I'm a wife, and like most others, have a house to take care of. Though some suggest it, I don't schedule time to write or set a specific word goal. I find it much easier to make sure that all of my responsibilities are taken care of and then write as I feel called to write. This in itself may be a helpful tip for some of you. Yes, writing, promotion, and selling are time consuming. If you want it bad enough, you will find the time. I know I've said it before, but I'll say it again. You only get out of this what you put into it. If you want to be a part-time author, you can. If you want to be an author as a hobby, you can. But if you want this to become a career, you will have to put in the work, the time, and believe that someday it will pay off. I'm currently in the process of penning 2 more books in the 13 Mile universe. My dream is to become an author full-time, and someday to do events full-time. In closing, I am here as proof that it is very possible to make your dream of becoming an author come true. Not only am I an author, but I am also someone who would love to help and inspire others to make their author dream a reality. The first step is to start writing. I'm happy to offer any of my experience to those looking to do so. Thank you for your time, and have a great rest of your day.